a roll call of the, I'd like to have a roll call of all members that are present.
Alan French, Vice Chairman.
Jack Kozak.
Tricia McCarthy, alternate.
Mike Conley, present, board.
Roger Hamel, alternate.
Laura McKenzie, secretary.
Is Frank Gibbs not with us this evening? Okay, we'll start with accepting the minutes of the sidewalk of August 1st and the public hearing minutes from the August 10th meeting.
I'm here. Can you hear me, Tom?
Yes, we can. Yeah. Okay.
I didn't get the minutes of the site walk. Can we postpone that, accepting that until next month?
Yeah, we can do that because I couldn't download those myself, but we can do that.
Okay.
And so we're going to vote on the August 10th meeting hearing.
Correct. Yes.
Somebody want to make a motion that we accept the minutes
Make a
as
motion
written?
that we accept the minutes of, what's it, August 10th, Tom?
Yes.
August 10th, 2020. This is Jack Kozak.
Seconded, Alan French.
Any omissions or errors?
Could I
If not,
intercede for discussion?
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, it's only Tricia. I'm just, and maybe it's because I am still new to this, but I didn't receive any minutes at any time. Obviously, I'm not going to vote on this. I'm only an alternate, but I just want to make sure that somehow I'm somehow in the queue here so that I receive minutes.
Okay, we'll take care of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem, Tricia.
Thanks, Laura.
No further comment. All those in favor of voting for the minutes as written, say aye.
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 Mike Conley, aye.
Okay, that passes. We actually have scheduled 2 public hearings this evening, and we're going to start with the continuation of Route 125 development. And is Mr. Bork on?
Tom, can I say something?
Go right ahead.
Seeing Tricia's here, I'd like to step down for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jim Burke is here.
Oh, that's Mr. Bork. I don't know how this is going to go this evening. Laura, do we just have 2 hours for this meeting? Is that true on the Zoom?
Yes, it's a 2-hour cap.
Okay. If we don't get to you, Mr. Bork, hopefully we can. It would be continued until our October meeting, which is actually scheduled for Columbus Day. So I don't know whether we're going to change that or whether we will have it on that date or not, but you would be notified for sure.
Okay.
So we want to continue with the meeting of,
Make Tricia vote.
oh yeah, Tricia will be a voting member.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to start with the continuation of Route 125 construction, lot 27-7. And Roger, are you stepping down as a voting member of this?
Well, I'm an alternate, but yeah, I'm recusing myself even as an alternate for this.
Okay, so we have, and Frank, you're stepping down, is that true?
Yes, because Tricia's here.
Okay. So that'll give us four voting members. Okay.
You haven't got a full board?
We have,
Oh,
yeah,
we have 5,
members,
okay.
yeah.
We do have 5,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay, that's why I stepped down.
Okay. We've gone through, let's see, comments from a lot of the abutters, and are there any other abutters who did not speak at the August 10th meeting that would like to say anything at this time?
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
I have a prefatory statement that our attorney has asked us to read to you. This is currently.
And who are you?
I'm sorry, this is Jason Peterak from the Greenfield Hills Homeowners Association.
Okay.
We're in a butter for the 125 development work. Okay. Our lawyer has asked us to say there are currently outstanding requests served on this board pursuant to RSA 91A, which have not been statutorily complied with. Accurate answers to the same may indeed evidence bias of at least some of the members of this board. This board is a quasi-judicial board, see New Hampshire Supreme Court case Winslow versus Holderness. Therefore, this board is subject to the juror standards under RSA 500, specifically RSA 500A:12. Accordingly, this meeting should be postponed pending the receipt of outstanding information.
And who are you representing again?
This is Greenfield Hills Homeowner Association, the butters for 125 development.
Located where?
We are in Plastown, New Hampshire.
Oh, okay. And what hasn't been addressed?
Our lawyer served requests for right to know under RSA 91A, and we have not received any of the responses for that, which should have been received within 5 days.
Where was the request sent to?
It was sent to the town hall.
Well, the town hall has been closed, so I don't, is
I
anything
believe
been?
he reached out to the secretary for this board.
Have you received any of that information, Laura?
Yes, I did receive it, and I did say that it would take about 3 weeks to be able to reply.
When was that request sent in? This is Mike Conley, board.
Sure, sir. That was.
I
Okay, go.
forwarded it to the entire board. I will
Yeah.
look for it and give you a better date. Hold on.
Sure, can I just ask, this is Jack Kozak, one of the members, what kind of information were you asking on your 91A? Just general information about what?
No, we were looking for emails between board members and employees of 125 Development, as well as some other information that that Attorney Laporte had specifically asked for.
Yes, okay. Yep.
Yes, it was sent 8/18 and it was forwarded 8/19, and it was also sent to the planning board.
That's right.
I do have to mention that statutorily you are required to respond within 5 days to that,
Yes, it was also replied to 8/19.
right?
As chairman, I don't recall ever receiving that email, so I'm totally unaware until you just brought it up.
Yeah, I
I'm
remember.
glad I did. I'm sorry.
That's okay, all right, I Jack Kozak, one of the other members, I did see it.
Yeah,
Mike, did any of the other board members see the email from Laura?
yes.
Yeah, okay. Alan, do you know if you received it?
No, I didn't.
Mr. Chairman, this is Tricia.
Yes.
So I guess I'll address this to Jason. I'm also Deputy Emergency Management Director, and as the chairman mentioned, the town has been operating almost as a skeleton crew. And although obviously I wasn't involved with this right to know request, it wouldn't have come to me. But you do need to know that we are overwhelmed with what we're doing in the town hall and on the emergency management. And although the statute says particular things, because we now come under an emergency operation, there is some, I want to say, lax, I don't want to say lax, but we have some wiggle room
Leniency.
for response. Our
Completely understand.
priority was not necessarily the right to know. I'm sure it's very important, but we were trying to figure out how to do elections. And because the town hall was closed, it made it difficult for people actually to go in to pull out all the documents under the right to know. It certainly isn't going to be neglected, but it probably, because of everything we were going through at town hall, wasn't up, in the front of everything. I'm sure it will be addressed. I do know at town hall, we're dealing with a couple of other things with right to know. So I'm sure that you're in the queue, although I don't recognize your name. And again, I wouldn't be privy to that. But again, I'm sure that we're working on it and we'll get it to you as soon as we can, depending on what this letter says. And again, I haven't seen the letter, so I'm not sure. But I will check with town hall as
completely
well.
understand the chaos that is caused by COVID.
Thank
and
you.
Understand how much of an impact it can have. However, we are asking that the meeting for 125 development be postponed until we receive that information.
I see. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me, sir, this is Jack Kozak again. I just have one question. Listen to your opening statement there. It sounded like you were talked about there was bias on the Board of Appeals or the Planning Board. Is that what you're pursuing? I'm just kind of trying to get a feel for what you're looking for.
I believe that he's pursuing questions about interaction ex parte between 125 development and the board.
This is Vice Chairman Alan French. I have had no email or correspondence with Coleman, the 125 development.
No, neither have I. I mean, I haven't seen anything.
So I have a clarifying question for Jason.
Yes, sir.
That's okay. Jason, are you looking for, so your question asked me to ask a question. Are you asking for stuff that came to the board outside of public knowledge or inside of public knowledge?
Mainly outside of public knowledge.
Okay, I wanted to declare that I have not had anything outside of public knowledge. This is Mike Conley board.
Yeah, my Jack Kozak, the same thing. Nothing.
Alan French, same thing.
Yeah, Tom McElroy, Chairman. I have not had any correspondence via email to 125 development.
I believe our lawyer was also looking for some specific information as well, and I can pull up the right to know requests. And
Mr. Chairman, if I may be heard, John Kazenovich representing 125 Development. This objection is procedurally out of order. There is no statutory requirement that a right to know be given prior to a vote. This is nothing but a delaying tactic from a neighborhood group that is seeking things that apparently don't even exist, as I hear from the various board members. So we ask that you just proceed with the public hearing and not be distracted by something that is not within jurisdiction of the board.
Yeah, he's correct. In the right to know comes, and the Freedom of Information Act comes after decision is made.
So I assume we're going to proceed with the hearing. This is Chairman McElroy.
I think there's nothing which legally prevents you from proceeding with the hearing.
Could you please repeat that? I'm sorry, we couldn't hear that.
There's nothing which legally prevents you from proceeding with the hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And who are you that's just spoken? I'm sorry.
John Kazenovich, I represent 125 Development.
Okay, thank you.
I'm their attorney.
Who is this other organization? Different parts down.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, let's see if there's no, anybody, any abutters have any further comment on 27-7? Okay, we'll start with the first request for variances. There's 4 variances, A, B, C, and D. We will start with A. The variance required for this parcel is from the required 200-foot structural side setback when abutting another zone. The parcel will have a 50-foot structural side back where a 200-foot setback is required. The setback is 50 feet, needing a variance of 150 feet for the structural side back.
Then you guys read the 5 criteria.
Okay, we're going to go through the 5 criteria. Any board members have comments on each of the criteria, we can bring them up at this time. After we've discussed all 5 criteria, we will vote on them with one vote. Number 1, the variance is not contrary to the public interest such that it would alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The response from the applicant is the variance would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The variance will not change the use or character of the neighborhood. All local, state, and federal permits will be submitted protecting all health, safety, and welfare of the public.
We're gonna vote, agree or disagree on this to make a comment, correct?
Yes, we're going to actually, make comments.
Okay, so, on each one of them,
Yep.
correct? So you wanna call out who's gonna make it?
Okay, who would like to be first? Mike, you want to make any comments on this first?
And do you agree or disagree, Mike?
I disagree. I don't think it falls in the favor of what the town has voted in.
Alan?
The exact same, that we went through a town meeting vote, was knocked down from 800 to 300, that the townspeople didn't want the 150-foot variance.
I'm Jack, I'm coming up now. Yes, I disagree, and my comments are, the request for a 150-foot variance from the rear side setback is contrary to the public interest and not in the spirits of the audience. The proposal to reduce these setbacks from 200 to 50 feet was soundly defeated in March of 2020 by 822 no and 297 yes. My vote upholds the voters' mandate of 200-foot setback. Trish?
Unfortunately, I agree with everybody, that yes, I don't think it's in the best interest and what our residents have voted for that, any kind of a waiver of that 200-foot setback. And can I just ask a crazy question? Do we have this document in front of us anywhere? I mean, I'm looking at a building, but I haven't got anything in writing to look at.
You don't have the,
I mean, I'm trying to follow along, but with this, for the criteria of this first one, I am against it. I think it does not fall, it's not falling within what we should do for the public and for what the residents have voted on in the past. So I get that much.
yeah.
Well, Trish, this is part of the problem of doing these meetings over the phone.
Well, she's new, so she didn't get, you
Yeah.
probably didn't get the documents.
Right,
correct?
I didn't get anything.
Okay, yeah. Sorry about that, Trish.
That's okay.
Again, this is Tom,
Yeah.
the chairman.
I'll add you on, Trish.
Okay.
The primary reason for this 200-foot buffer was, one reason was to protect the aquifer. And that's one reason why it was set up as 200 foot.
That's correct.
The overwhelming vote on the 2 different votes in 2013 and again in 2020 were overwhelming against changing the setback from 200 to 50. Is that everybody that's on the board now has responded?
Yes, yep.
Okay, let's go to 2. The spirit of the ordinance is observed. The proposed use must not conflict with the explicit or implicit purpose of the ordinance and must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, threaten public health, safety, or welfare, or otherwise injure public rights. Mike, you want to make a comment?
Again, I'll go back to some of the previous comments. I don't think it follows the spirit of what the town has voted in. I have questions on the aquifer. So my vote is no.
Alan?
I don't want to say the word ditto, but back to the same thing, we're all responding to the town vote on these variance requests.
This is Jack Kozak. Yeah, I also disagree, and I go back to my prior comments with number one, the 150-foot variance. The people have spoken out several times in the town of Newton to keep it at 200 feet, and 150-foot approval would be not in spirit of the variance. I vote no.
Tom, the chairman, I also in agreement with the other members that we're trying to protect the aquifer, and the way the town has voted twice on this issue, it's been overwhelming against changing the buffer zone.
And Trish is last. Trish, you have any comments? And how do you vote?
I am in agreement that it would change the spirit of not only the aquifer and what the public has voted on, but originally way back when we did this, it was to protect not only the aquifer, but various zones, you know, residential from commercial. So I agree this would not be in the spirit of what we should be doing.
Number three, substantial justice is done. The explanation, the benefit of the applicant should not be outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals.
You want to read this?
Yeah. The benefit to the applicant is not outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. The value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back within an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Mike?
Yep, so again, I think in the spirit of things, the way that this property is being divided up, I think in the spirit of the dividing of this, the way it's being laid out, there are alternatives that can come into play that should be looked at. I'm voting no.
Alan?
No.
Any comments, Alan?
Nope, it says it when you read the criteria, it's stated right there. Substantial justice or not.
And Jack Kozak disagree. Again, I reference remarks of 1 and 2, also that the harm to the general public outweighs the benefit of the applicant if variance is approved. Trish?
Yes, and I agree also with Mr. Conley that, you know, there possibly could be alternatives, but the way this is presented, I believe that it is not in the spirit of what we should be doing, and that the, how do I want to say it? There could be an alternative, but the way it's presented, I have to vote no.
This is Tom. It's Tom McElroy, the chairman. I am in agreement with the other members of the board, and I would vote no. Number 4, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished. Expert testimony on this question is not conclusive, but cannot be ignored. The board may also consider other evidence of the effect on property values, including personal knowledge of the members themselves. The response from the applicant is the value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back within an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones. Mike?
I vote no. I think there could potentially be there is potential that the values could go down.
Alan?
Yeah, I vote no. It's, the side that's going, towards Sergeant Woods would be, greatly changed from the, vegetation that's there now. It would have to be removed to put a building in there.
I also disagree. This is Jack Kozak. And there's no evidence of the variance request reducing property values has come forward. But I walked through the property, we were in people's backyard, and I believe the approval of the variance would harm the property values. Trish?
Okay. I guess the property values, so that's an interesting way to put this. With my expertise of property values, I believe it would depend on exactly if this buffer is allowed to be reduced, then yes, it could potentially affect property values. If the construction is to not allow the buffer, then I don't necessarily think property values would be affected, but I'm not actually sure that I'm answering this correctly. For some reason, the volume is really low and I can't raise it. So if you could you repeat that last criteria?
Sure, it's criteria number 4, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished. And then the explanation is expert testimony on this question is not conclusive, but cannot be ignored. The board may also consider other evidence of the effect on property values, including personal knowledge of the members themselves. And their response was, the applicant's response was, the value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back within an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Okay. So I then agree with the rest of the committee. I think if this buffer is changed, that it could affect the property values.
This is Tom. Anything I've read about property values being affected, it's kind of up in the air where they may be or they may not be. So it's not a definitive answer, but I would vote no on this criteria. Number 5, literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. Unnecessary hardship means the applicant must establish that the property is burdened by the zoning restriction in a manner that it is distinct from other similarly situated property. Because of special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, A, there is no fair and substantial relationship between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. The applicant must establish that because of conditions of the property, the restriction as applied to the property does not serve that purpose in a fair and substantial way. And B, the proposed use is a reasonable one. The applicant must establish that the special conditions of the property cause the proposed use to be reasonable. The use must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Alternatively, the unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict performance with the ordinance. Explanation: as an alternative to A and B above, the applicant can satisfy the unnecessary hardship requirement by establishing that because of the special conditions of the property, there is no reasonable use that can be made of the property that would be permitted under the ordinance. If there is a reasonable use, including an existing use, that is permitted under the ordinance, this alternative is not available. The applicant's response to this criteria is, due to the property being zoned as light industrial / commercial and has been developed as such, along with the fact that the surrounding area contains the largest light industrial / commercial zoning in the town of Newton. The ordinance does not accurately reflect the current character of the neighborhood. The regulation directly interferes with the owner's right to use the property as he or she sees fit. Furthermore, the variance does not injure the public or private rights of others. The code establishes new definition for variance hardship by Susan Slack, New Hampshire Municipal Association Legal Services Council. Mike, want to make a comment?
I'm going to refrain from comment. I don't think it meets the criteria now.
Alan?
I just think that there could be an alternative solution to it.
Do you agree or disagree?
Disagree.
Okay. This is Jack Kozak. I also disagree. I think that, we worked on this piece of property a few months ago, and I believe the developer knew going in that it was, by giving him these variances, we had no idea what size building he was going to put up, so we approved the variance, and he created his own hardship. Therefore, I disagree.
This is Tom McElroy, the chairman. I realize this is a small parcel of land, 2.92 acres, and the property could accommodate a smaller building than what is being proposed. So I disagree.
Trish?
Yes, thank you. I disagree as well. I believe that there could be an alternative design, but the way it's presented, I agree with everyone else.
I'm going to make a motion to deny A. Okay.
No, we're going to make a motion to,
Do it of each one.
we can do it as one.
We can do it as one?
Yep.
What if there's some that say yes and some that say no?
Well, if everybody votes, well, as long as the vote is in the majority,
Right.
as yes or no,
Okay.
that would carry the issue.
Okay. So you want to wait till at the end, do it all at once?
Right, we've already gone through the 5 criteria.
Right, that's just for A. We got to go through the 5 criteria for B, we got to go through the 5 criteria for C and D.
But that's going to be, each one is a separate variance, so
Right,
now
that's what I'm saying, this should be, make a motion either deny.
You may want to make a motion for each one separately.
Yes, that's what I think also, Mike. Okay, this is Jack Kozak. I'm going to make the motion, and I'd like to make a motion to deny variance request A for lot 27-7, Caps Map 14, Block 1, for 125 Development, Concord, New Hampshire. Do we have a vote, please?
we need a second.
Second, right, we need a second first.
Alan French, Vice Chairman, second.
Mike, how do you vote?
Deny.
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion on this motion? Okay.
Mike,
What about a butter?
Mike, what's your vote?
Deny.
Deny. Alan?
Yeah, deny, but what about a butter? We haven't heard from him.
Jack, deny. Trish?
Deny.
Tom deny.
The motion carries. Okay.
All right, now we're going to variance B under 27-7. The variance required for this parcel is from the required 200-foot structural rear setback. The first A was the side setback. This is the rear setback when abutting another zone. The parcel will have a 50-foot structural rear setback where a 200-foot setback is required. The setback is 50 feet, needing a variance of 150 feet for the structural rear setback.
Okay, so now we want to read the 5 criteria, right, Tom?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just so you're aware of it, Trish, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the criteria is the same for all 5, all 4
5.
variants.
Yep.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay, Tom.
Number 1, the variance is not contrary to the public interest such that it would alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The applicant's response is the same as it was for for A. The variance would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The variance will not change the use or character of the neighborhood. All local, state, and federal permits will be submitted protecting all health, safety, and welfare to the public.
Mike, any comments?
In the spirit of the ordinance, I'm going to deny this.
Okay. Alan?
Yeah, it's the same thing actually as a repeat of the side setback.
Yep.
And this is Jack Kozak. I say now also yes, and I think that I could repeat what I said for A, that the setback going from 250 feet was soundly defeated in March, and we're upholding the mandate of voters, and definitely in contrary to the public interest. That was Jack. Trish?
I agree. It's definitely contrary to public interest and the spirit of the ordinance, and the residents have spoken, and certainly that means something. So I agree with everyone else. I would deny this.
Yeah, this is Tom. Again, we're going back to protecting the aquifer, which is the original proposal to create this 200-foot buffer. So I would vote, I would deny this. Number 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. The proposed use must not conflict with the explicit or implicit purpose of the ordinance, must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, threaten public health, safety, or welfare, or otherwise injure public rights. The applicant's response is the purpose of the ordinance is to make sure there is an adequate and reasonable distance between zones. With the 50-foot side setback in place, there will be no alterations to the character of the neighborhood.
Mike, you're up.
Again, first, the spirit of the town vote, the ordinance, but with that aquifer, I think health comes into play, so I need to say no.
Alan?
Just refer to the same discussion we had on the other criteria and say deny.
And this is Jack Kozak. I agree. I deny also. I think the spirit of the ordinance speaks for itself. Trish?
I agree. It's the spirit of the ordinance. It is the aquifer. We've been down this road in the past, and it really is important to protect our natural resources and the spirit of the ordinance that the residents at town have already voted on. So I agree with everyone.
Again, we're voting, we're trying to protect the aquifer and upholding the votes that were made twice that denied the change of the buffer zone. I say no. Number 3, substantial justice is done. The benefit to the applicant should not be outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. The response from the applicant is the benefit to the applicant is not outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. The value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. This parcel will be set back with an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Alan, you're up. Excuse me, Mike, I'm sorry. Come on.
Yeah, I go back to public health, the aquifer, not damaging that. In the spirit of what the town voted in, so I need to say no at this.
Alan?
Yeah, I'm just going with the town vote for the same thing about having a 200-foot setback.
And so Jack Kozak, he said, yeah, I also believe the harm to the general public outweighs the benefit to the applicant if the variance was approved. Trish?
I would agree. Harm to the general public and public health and the aquifer. So I agree with everyone.
Again, I vote no on this particular criteria. Again, they bring out the surrounding properties will not diminish on values, but again, that's up in the air whether they will or will not. Okay, number 4, the value of surrounding properties are not diminished. Expert testimony on this question is not conclusive, but cannot be ignored. The board may also consider other evidence of the effect on property values, including personal knowledge of the members themselves. The response for the applicant is the value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back with an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Mike?
Based on the walkthrough, and seeing the closeness to the property lines, I need to say no at this time.
Alan?
Yeah, according to the walk we had, the setback does not coordinate with what the town vote was.
And this is Jack Kozak. Yes, I also disagree. I think it would have effect on property values. Trish?
I have to vote no at this time as well.
Tom?
I'm also voting no. Talking about surrounding values, it's a toss-up whether or not surrounding values would be affected, but I still don't think that we know for sure whether it would or would not, but I would vote no. Number 5, the literal enforcement of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship. The applicant must establish that the property is burdened by the zoning restriction in a manner that is distinct from other similarly situated property. Because of special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, there is no fair and substantial relationship between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. The applicant must establish that because of the conditions of the property, the restriction as applied to the property does not serve that purpose in a fair and substantial way. And B, the proposed use is a reasonable one. The applicant must establish that the special conditions of the property cause the proposed use to be reasonable. The use must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Alternatively, the unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict performance with the ordinance. Explanation: as an alternative to A and B above, the applicant can satisfy the unnecessary hardship requirement by establishing that because of the special conditions of the property, there is no reasonable use that can be made of the property that would be permitted under the ordinance. If there is a reasonable use, including an existing use, that is permitted under the ordinance, this alternative is not available. The response from the applicant is due to the property being zoned as light industrial/commercial and has been developed as such, along with the fact that the surrounding area contains the largest light industrial/commercial zoning in the town of Newton. The ordinance does not accurately reflect the current character of the neighborhood. The regulation directly interferes with the owner's right to use the property as he/she sees fit. Furthermore, the variance does not injure the public or private rights of others. It says in parentheses, see attached, court establishes new definition for variance hardship by Susan Slack, New Hampshire Municipal Association Legal Services Council.
Mike?
I think there are alternatives. I have to vote no at this one.
Alan?
And I believe the alternative could be a smaller building on that parcel. It's 2.9 acres.
Yes, Jack Kozak, I also disagree, and I have to follow Alan. I think a smaller building would have been appropriate in that piece of property, and again, he developed his own hardship. Trish?
Yes, I agree. I think that the owner could have an alternative plan or design, and certainly a smaller building could achieve it. So I also agree with everyone.
Tom, it's Mike Conley. I should have said the same thing. Apologize. The owner did create his hardship, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay. And Tom?
Tom, I'm voting no. Again, there is another alternative for that property.
Okay, this is Jack Kozak. I'd like to make a motion to deny variance request B for 125 Development Corp. of New Hampshire.
We need a second.
Second,
Second.
Alan French, Vice Chairman. Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of denying the variance signify by saying aye.
Jack Kozak, aye.
Aye, Alan French.
Tricia
Mike
McCarthy,
Conley,
aye.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry,
Uh,
Mike.
Sorry, Trish.
No problem.
Tom, aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay, we're going on to C, under lot 27-7. The variance required for this parcel is from the required 75-foot building distance from the center line of the street and 50 feet from any lot line. The parcel will have a building and pavement with a 25-foot distance from the center line of the street. The distance from the building to the center line of the street is 25 feet, needing a variance of 50 feet. Discussion.
Tom, can I just make a comment? This is Jack Kozak. I'm not sure where the 75-foot came from, but it's 65 foot from the center of the road. And if you look at that, and if they use 75 feet, I calculated at 65 feet, the building would be 3 feet from the edge of the road, as opposed to 13 if it was 75 feet. But the zoning requirement is 65 feet from the center of the road. So I want everybody to take that into account when they discuss it.
Can we get an explanation on this particular variance from the applicant?
Nobody there? Is nobody there from 125 Development?
Coleman or Jace, will you address this?
Oh, sorry, we couldn't hear you.
I was just asking if Coleman or Jace could address this.
Nobody there?
No comment?
No?
Oh, this is great, really.
I guess one concern we have about this particular variance is that I don't quite understand how close.
Can you guys hear us?
Oh, I
Hey,
can now.
I can hear you, Jace.
Go
What
ahead,
was the
Jason.
question?
Further explanation of this particular variance, it doesn't quite make sense. It looks like that the building would almost be on the road.
Can you just restart from the beginning of what?
Well,
what
that's-
did-
Yeah, two things, Tom, right? One, it's not a road, that's a private driveway. And two, I don't know if we gotta go through this whole, address everything, because when you voted no on the 200-foot setback, yeah, the side setback, it basically wipes out the whole lot. So it's not buildable. So there's no real sense on even moving forward. You can't reduce the size of the building. The building is wiped out. So you can't even fit a building.
You're talking about the proposed building, correct?
Correct. The proposed building, when you voted out the 200 feet, you can't really even fit a building on that lot that would even make any sense. So, I mean, it's up to John if you want to proceed with, everything else is irrelevant. I mean, the lot doesn't work. I'm just confused that all of the same board members allowed Halo, Race Tech, 3 puzzle, 5 puzzle, 9 puzzle, 2 puzzle, building 1. They were all allowed and they were all 50 feet.
I have a
So-
question, Coleman. When were the years that those were put into place?
I can get you all those years, Mike, right? But
I
mean,
wasn't part of it. So when you say all the board,
So Mike, this has been like, a 12-year project, and every lot in phase 1 I think just about every lot in phase one, the ZBA approved all of these lots, and they're all the same board members. So I just, I think, excuse me, can I finish? Am I allowed to finish?
Go ahead, Coleman.
Coleman, I'm not talking, sorry, somebody else has got some gibberish going.
It just seems like the boards that are planning, zoning, I mean, that we should be consistent in the way that this project is gone.
But the town voted in those 12 years to change the rules.
No, they didn't. I'm not going to get into that. I mean, we've requested the right to know law in that you don't have any meeting minutes. You don't have the votes of the members. There's nothing. The chairman of the board, Peachy, says and swears that never went into effect in 2004. And in 2004, coincidentally, I was like 3 months. I was in the last stage of my purchasing of this land that was designated as, to be a commercial development. So I was just ready to close on the property, and coincidentally, it got put on the town warrant with mysteriously no backup from the planning board in who voted, when they voted, no discussion, nothing.
They wouldn't have had to have a vote if they had enough signatures. It
Well,
wouldn't require-
Ian Miles also, voted in the 50-foot setback, and she allowed it, right? And
my personal feeling, she made an illegal move on that. She should not have been able to give you a 50-foot variance. Is it done?
Does he want to just?
We've got a phone here, and Laura, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Is Coleman dropped off?
Yes, it seems like he is.
Yes.
Yeah, for some reason I can't see or hear Coleman.
Well,
we
Jace
can't either.
is
I think
still
he's
on
up.
here. Jace is still on here, I'm sorry. But
Okay.
it's just not, it seems like there's an issue going on their end.
Oh, jeez.
Your explanation on that one there is that, did you know it was a driveway? I didn't know it was a driveway. No.
I thought, well, it was never a town accepted road. It was
No.
a right of way.
Hey, I can you guys hear me now?
Yep, you're back.
I know I've done a couple of these site walks now, and one thing that's important for us is that we do a good job on the plans that we submit, and then the applications we submit, and we make sure everything is done properly. And then we have you guys come on the property to do the site walks. And then it's somewhat frustrating to hear every time we have, it really is almost every time we have these hearings that it's as if the members don't even look at the paperwork we provide. And to not know, after all of these months and all of this documentation we've submitted and all these conversations we've had and all of these hearings that we've had, to that it's not a public road and that it's a driveway. It's outlandish to me. It tells me that none of the members here really understand what they're voting on, or particularly, the specifications on the building, the setback limits. Again, and I know I repeated this, is they are setback limits, but in that limit, it's still our land. And, again, just to back it up, I mean, I feel like you guys really should be looking at this paperwork and understanding what you're talking about before, voting on something that's, can I finish?
agree with
please?
you. We looked over the paperwork.
You,
We're not
you,
all in.
to not know that this is a private access way at this period in time, after all of these years, is unacceptable. It's outlandish for that to be said. And again, it's every hearing we do this. It's every time we have a hearing, and it's all recorded too. If you guys don't think that I've been documenting all this, that's a very naive thought. And again, it's just really unacceptable for those things to happen. There's been times in hearings where people, members of the boards have stated, oops, I haven't even looked at the paperwork yet. Please give me a second so I can go grab it. That's not acceptable, especially when we're putting so much effort into all this. But I think that's all I have to say.
And oops, planning can't change zoning. That's, so I've got all these non-conforming buildings. I mean, you think that's fair?
Coleman, can you explain that a little bit more?
Mike, you're a new member, but again, I go back to, boards have to be consistent. They can't say, it's black, it's black, it's black, it's black, and then say it's white. Okay? We've got all these buildings in phase 1 that have and been granted a 50-foot setback. Okay? In that this is same town, same project, same phase, same street, same board, same everything. And now it's yes, 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 but tonight it's no.
The variances we're talking about tonight, Coleman, are 150 feet, the major ones, not 50 feet. And every piece of property we look at is different, and they're handled differently. Everyone, the abutters and so forth. Yeah. I don't think you can hear me.
I just, it's commercial, it's a residential. You guys are talking about aquifer. Aquifer is like, we're talking an apple and an orange. The aquifer doesn't have any bearings on ZBA approval and zoning. Nothing, nada. You all brought up the aquifer.
I didn't
bring up the aquifer.
The Quintana building's in the aquifer, and you granted that. You granted that 200-foot setback. You let us build that, and you granted us permission for less than 200 feet, and that's in the aquifer. So don't tell me. This is frustrating. I've got $500,000 I spent. Hopefully the town has insurance, okay, for Ann Miles to have all these buildings built.
That's all we have to say. We appreciate your guys' time.
And continue on.
Do you want to drop these variances then, Coleman?
I don't know if these are off or not.
You guys need to continue on with the meeting, the hearing. You got to
Yep.
do it the right and proper way, so continue.
I still have a question on how close would if this letter C variance was to pass, how close would the building be to the right of way or the path or whatever you want to call it?
Tom, when you
Yeah.
voted and you denied us the 200-foot, the 50-foot, you didn't grant us that, okay, and you want to hold the 200 feet, it wipes out the whole lot. So it's kind of irrelevant to waste our time and your time, okay, it's that denial wiped out the whole lot. You can't fit a building in unless you want to put it in the air. You won't let us put it on that lot. I don't know how to better explain it. So everything else is kind of irrelevant. So if we want to move on to phase 2 and 3,
You're referring to 27-3, right?
correct.
Okay, so, how do we want to end this particular hearing on, 7-7? Mr. Coleman, he is gonna, give us a pass on, variance request C and D.
No, but listen, no, I don't want it to get misconstrued. Nobody's getting a pass for anything. Please continue the vote.
What did Mr. Coleman just say?
He doesn't need to say anything. Again, we're not giving anyone a pass. Please just continue on with the vote. Please do it the right way. I don't know. I'm not gonna go in circles here.
Okay.
Let's go through and do C. Okay, yeah.
Do the other members of the board understand C as far as?
I'm somewhat confused. And the only reason I'm confused is I'm just wondering if Mr. McDonough could come up, could this pass if the building were smaller? Excuse me. You know, instead of voting on something that is a negative, could it be made smaller so that Coleman could still use it for something? Or is that just out of the question, Coleman?
Yeah, it's out of the question.
It is?
Yeah, you can't, you know. It's again, it's just confusing that every building in here, the ZBA approved, and it's the same board members, and, you know, I would think that the board would have to be consistent.
And maybe to address that, I don't want to get off the subject here. You figure in all the years that we've all worked with you, and certainly you and I go back for many years, some of the issues that we had where you actually did encroach into the buffer, you worked very closely with conservation. Remember, you replanted vegetation. But I guess my question is, it's not necessarily the zoning board, because not everything comes to zoning board. It depends on the decision that came to planning. So perhaps in the past, you didn't come before zoning because you didn't have to. And I don't know, I'd have to go back and look at our history, but I know you and I go back, you know, probably to 2004 or 5.
We saw some buildings there.
The thing is, Trish, I believe every building, other than a couple of buildings in phase 1, was put in front of ZBA, and ZBA unanimously approved every building, cutting back the 200 feet to 90 or, you know, 60 or 50, whatever.
Okay.
So, you know, they were all approved, you know, before we went into planning.
Okay. That answered my question.
There is no building in phase 1 that conforms to the 200-foot setback. So hence, same board, why now are we changing?
I don't know necessarily. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You know, I didn't want to go through ZBA every time in phase 1, and that's when I put the warrant on, and Ann Miles changed, you know, the zoning to a 50-foot setback for if she seen fit for 1,500 feet. But, you know, it's kind of a moot point. You know, you can't get a smaller building. It's not feasible. You know, it just doesn't work.
I was just curious.
Yeah, but I appreciate it, Trish.
Thank you.
House had no legal right.
Of course you didn't. Yeah, I know she's from I guess we can't get an
Tom?
explanation on that. So, yeah.
Okay, we'll go through C, I guess.
Yeah.
Tom, this is Roger Hamill.
Yes, Roger.
Just to answer your question, I think that is what, if they're looking to be able to have a building within 25 foot of the center line of the roadway is its address. If the road's 26 feet wide, that means that the building would be 12 feet from the edge of the road.
Yeah, that's based on 75 foot from the center. If it's 65 feet, it's only 2 or 3 feet, Roger. See what I'm saying? Is that
Yes.
75 foot an error? As far as I know, our you know, and I'm not sure because this is not a road, I guess, a path or a driveway. So I'm not sure if 75 feet is the correct, but our zoning office calls for 65 feet from the center of the road. That means that building would be right up next to the road. If it would have happened. You with me, Roger? Maybe he didn't, I don't know.
Yes, I understand. I just wanted to clarify for Tom.
Okay,
I'm not
thank you.
I'm not speaking on the merits of anything.
Okay.
Okay, we can go through the criteria for C.
I just got a question. Coleman, if this was a private driveway, why are you requesting a variance? It's 65 feet from the center of the road.
My engineer did that.
Let's go on. Whenever
Okay,
you get-
let's go through the criteria for,
Mr. Chairman, may I speak? This is Barbara White.
yes, Barbara.
According to the ordinance, the setback from the center line of the road for the light industrial commercial zone is 75 feet.
Okay,
Okay.
It's different
Thank
than
you for-
residential.
all right, thank you.
You're
It's
welcome.
not a road though.
No.
Okay. Barbara, now we're saying it's not a road.
I'm just letting you know what the zoning ordinance
All right.
says.
Thank you
Hey,
for that information.
we can quibble about feet and center line, whatever. It's a moot point. We're not putting a building there because of the 200 feet. So let's press on. Just please vote.
Okay, we'll go through the 5 criteria. The variance is not contrary to the public interest, such that it would alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The applicant's response is the same as it has been with all the other variances. The variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The variance will not change the use or character of the neighborhood. All state and federal permits will be submitted protecting all health, safety, and welfare of the public.
Mike?
I'll vote no. Defer comment.
Alan?
Just referring the same thing on the town vote. So no.
This is Jack Kozak, and the 50-foot variance setback, to me, is contrary to the public interest and not the spirit of the ordinance. Trish? Trish, you there?
Sorry, I muted myself.
Oh, that's okay.
Sorry. I'm not sure how I want to vote because I feel that there's a public versus a private road situation. However, if Mr. McDonough feels that the other things we voted on are affecting this one building, regardless of whether a setback would be required if it were a private drive, then I guess I would vote in agreement with everyone else. However, if it's a private drive, there may be a different requirement for setbacks. So I'm somewhat confused at this point.
We need you guys to take a vote on this. We need a decision. We need to move forward with what we need
All right,
to.
Jace.
I'm voting no because it's still not quite clear to me how close the building, if it were to pass, how close it would be to the street or right away, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, criteria number 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. The proposed use must not conflict with the explicit or implicit purpose of the ordinance and must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, threaten public health, safety, or welfare, or otherwise injure public rights. The applicant's response is the purpose of the ordinance is to make sure there is an adequate and reasonable distance between zones. With the 50-foot side setback in place, there will be no alterations to the character of the neighborhood.
Mike?
No.
I'm not sure, Alan had excused himself for a minute. This is Jack Kozak, and I'm gonna vote no also. Trish?
I'll vote no.
Okay. Tom?
I vote no.
Okay.
Number 3, substantial justice is done. The benefit to the applicant should not be outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. The applicant's response to that is the benefit to the applicant is not outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. The value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back within an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Mike?
Nope.
Any comment?
No, due to time, I'll refer.
Okay. And Jack, the general public outweighs the benefits to the applicant is very disapproved. So, I disagree. Trish?
I vote no.
Okay. Tom?
I vote no.
Okay.
Number 4, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished. Expert testimony on this question is not conclusive, but cannot be ignored. The board may also consider other evidence of the effect on property values, including personal knowledge of the members themselves. The response from the applicant is the value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back within an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Mike?
No.
Jack, no. Trish?
No.
And Tom?
No.
Okay. Okay, number 5.
The literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship, meaning the applicant must establish that the property is burdened by the zoning restriction in a manner that is distinct from other similarly situated property because of special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. There is no fair and substantial relationship between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. The applicant must establish that because of the conditions of the property, the restriction as applied to the property does not serve that purpose in a fair and substantial way. The proposed use is a reasonable one. The applicant must establish that the special conditions of the property cause the proposed use to be reasonable. The use must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Alternatively, the unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance. As an alternative to A and B above, the applicant can satisfy the unnecessary hardship requirement by establishing that because of the special conditions of the property, there is no reasonable use that can be made of the property that would be permitted under the ordinance. If there is a reasonable use, including an existing use, that is permitted under the influence, this alternative is not available. Response from the applicant is due to the property being zoned as light industrial/commercial and has been developed as such, along with the fact that the surrounding area contains the largest light industrial/commercial property in the town of Newton. The ordinance does not accurately reflect the current character of the neighborhood. The regulation directly interferes with the owner's right to use the property as he or she sees fit. Furthermore, the variance does not injure the public or private rights of others. And it says, see attached. Court establishes new definition for variance hardship by Susan Slack, New Hampshire Municipal Association Legal Services Council.
Mike?
No. Defer comment.
Alan?
Same thing, Alan, no.
No comment. Jack? No. Trish?
No.
And Tom?
No.
Okay, okay. I'd like to make a motion that we deny variance request C for 125 Development Corp. of New Hampshire. I have a second.
Seconded, Alan French.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of denying this variance request signify by saying aye.
Aye, Alan French, Vice Chairman.
Aye, Jack Kozak.
Aye, Mike Conley.
Aye, Tricia McCarthy.
Aye, Tom McElroy. Okay, we'll go on to D. The variance required for this parcel is 50-foot building activity distance from any poorly or very poorly drained soil, except as provided in subsection C of section 27 wetland or zoning ordinance. The parcel will have a 15-foot distance to building activity for pavement and recharge basin. The building activity for pavement and recharge basin is 15 foot, needed a variance of 35 foot for building activity distance from any poorly or very poorly drained soil, except as provided in subsection C of section 27 wetland zoning ordinance. Any discussion on this variance request? We'll go through the 5 criteria. The variance is not contrary to the public interest, such that it would alter essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The response from the applicant is the variance would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten public health, safety, or welfare. The variance will not change the use or character of the neighborhood. All state and federal permits will be submitted protecting all health, safety, and welfare of the public.
Mike,
Aye, Mike Conley. Defer.
you say disagree?
Disagree.
Yeah. Any comment, Mike?
I defer.
Alan?
Yeah, I disagree.
Yeah.
Same as before.
I disagree, and I think the request of the variance is contrary to public interest. Trish?
I disagree, definitely.
Tom?
I disagree. I think we don't want to encroach upon wetlands whenever possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to make a motion on this particular variance.
No, not yet. We're just, we're the second one.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2.
Yeah.
The spirit of the ordinance is observed. The proposed use must not conflict with the explicit or implicit purpose of the ordinance and must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, threaten public health, safety, or welfare, or otherwise injure public rights. Response of the applicant is the purpose of the ordinance is to make sure there's an adequate and reasonable distance between zones. With the 50-foot setback in place, there will be no alterations of the character of the neighborhood.
Mike?
No.
Okay. Comment?
Defer.
Okay. Alan?
Same as before, no.
Okay. Again, I think the variance request is contrary to the public interest. I disagree. Trish?
I disagree.
Tom?
I disagree.
Okay.
Number 3, substantial justice is done. The benefit to the applicant should not be outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. The response from the applicant is the benefit to the applicant is not outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. The value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back within an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Disagree.
Thank you, Mike.
I disagree, it should be 200 feet.
Yeah. I disagree also. Yeah, the harm to the general public outweighs the benefit to the applicant. Trish?
I agree. I mean, I disagree. Harm to general public also outweighs. Thank you.
Tom?
I disagree.
Okay.
Number 4, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished. Expert testimony on this question is not conclusive, but cannot be ignored. The board may also consider other evidence of the effect on property values, including personal knowledge of the members themselves. Response from the applicant: the value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back with an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Mike?
I disagree.
Okay. Alan?
I disagree, Alan French.
Jack, yes, I disagree also. No proof one way or the other, yeah. Trish?
I disagree.
Okay. Tom?
Disagree.
Okay.
Number 5, little enforcement of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship. The applicant must establish that the property is burdened by the zoning restriction in a manner that is distinct from other similarly situated property. Because of special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, there is no fair or substantial relationship between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. The applicant must establish that because of the conditions of the property, the restriction as applied to the property does not serve that purpose in a fair and substantial way. The proposed use is a reasonable one. The applicant must establish that special conditions of the property cause the proposed use to be reasonable. The use must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Alternatively, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict performance with the ordinance. As an alternative to A and B, above, the applicant can satisfy the unnecessary hardship required by establishing that because of the special conditions of the property, there is no reasonable use that can be made of the property that would be permitted under the ordinance. If there is a reasonable use, including an existing use that is permitted under the ordinance, this alternative is not available. Due to the property being zoned as light industrial/commercial and has been developed as such, along with the fact that the surrounding area contains the largest light industrial/commercial zoning in the town of Newton, the ordinance does not accurately reflect the character of the neighborhood. The regulation directly interferes with the owner's right to use the property as he or she sees fit. Furthermore, the variance does not injure the public rights of others. The court establishes new definition of various hardship by Susan Slack, New Hampshire Municipal Association Legal Services Council.
Mike?
Disagree.
Okay. Alan?
Disagree,
Okay.
Alan French.
I disagree, and enforcement of the ordinance to me does not create an unnecessary hardship. Trish?
I disagree.
Okay. Tom?
I disagree.
Okay, with that, with the review of D, I'd like to make a motion to deny variance request D for 125 Development Corp. of New Hampshire.
We need it.
Seconded, Alan French.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Mike Conley, aye.
Alan French.
Jack Kozak, aye.
Tricia McCarthy,
Trish.
aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on to lot 27-3. Again, there are 4 variances requested. A, the variance required for this parcel is from the required 200-foot structural side setback when abutting another zone. The parcel will have 50-foot structural side setback where a 200-foot setback is required. The setback is 50 feet, needing a variance of 150 feet for the structural side setback.
That side setback and glass out.
Did you just read A?
Yes.
Okay. So now I gotta go through the criteria again.
But,
Number 1.
Is that side setback and plastow or is it us?
Pardon me?
Side setback and plastow we're referring to or is it us?
Well, this is dealing with only the property that's in Newton,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
that's what I want.
Okay, we'll go through the 5 criteria. Number 1, the variance is not contrary to the public interest such that it would alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The response from the applicant is the variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten public health, safety, or welfare. The variance will not change the use or character of the neighborhood. All state and local federal permits will be submitted protecting all health, safety, and welfare of the public.
This must be the Howard Lane.
Okay. Mike, you're up.
Disagree.
Any comment?
Not at this time.
Alan?
Disagree.
Jack, disagree. Again, like I said that when we looked at this particular one before, the request for 150-foot variance from the rear side setbacks is contrary to public interest and not the spirit of the ordinance. Trish?
I also disagree. It's not in the spirit of the ordinance, and the residents really have spoken on this.
Yes. Tom?
I disagree also for the same reasons. Okay, number 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. The proposed use must not conflict with the explicit or implicit purpose of the ordinance and must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, threaten public health, safety, or welfare, or otherwise injure public rights. The explanation from the applicant is the purpose of the ordinance is to make sure there is an adequate and reasonable distance between zones. With the 50-foot side setback in place, there will be no alterations to the character of the neighborhood.
Mike Conley, disagree.
Okay. Alan?
Yeah, disagree.
Okay. Jack Kozak, disagree, and I reiterate that the request for 150-foot variance from the rear side setbacks is contrary to public interest. It's not in the spirit of the ordinance. The taxpayers have spoken, I think, twice in the last few years. Again, I refreshed the numbers in March of 2020. The vote was 822 no and 297 yes to change the setback to 50 feet from 200. Trish?
Yes, I disagree, and Jack said it all.
Yeah. Tom?
I disagree for the same reasons that Jack expressed.
Okay.
Okay, number 3, substantial justice is done. The benefit to the applicant should not be outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. The response to that from the applicant is the benefit of the applicant is not outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. The value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back within an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Mike?
Disagree.
Any comment?
Not at this time.
Okay. Alan?
Disagree.
Comment?
Against the comment of the feelings of the taxpayers.
Jack Kozak, I vote no. I think the harm to the general public outweighs the benefit to the applicant. Trish?
Yes, I disagree. I agree with everybody. It
Tom?
outweighs
Okay.
the public.
Thank you.
Number 4, the value of surrounding properties are not diminished. Expert testimony on this question is not conclusive but cannot be ignored. The board may also consider other evidence of the effect on property values, including personal knowledge of the members themselves. Response from the applicant is the value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back with an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Disagree.
Mike?
If
Disagree, yeah. Alan?
Disagree, Alan French.
Jack Kozak, disagree. I mean, I think if there is no evidence by anybody, either a particular resident or on 125, that there's a reduction in valuations of the homes.
Mr. Chair, can I speak to that? This is Jason Peterhack from Greenfield Hills.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir. In the last 3 months, we've had 2 sales and 1 pending sale of houses in the Greenfield Hills development. Each of these has sold or is in the process of selling for the asking price or better, some with multiple offers. In contrast, one of the abutters, 16 Ridgewood, went to market in July, received 1 offer, but the potential buyer declined to purchase, citing the current development. We also know this because that buyer reached out to the Plastow Planning Board for more information and noted to the planning board staff that they were considering not purchasing the land because of the development. So this clearly has had an impact on abutters in that area and is likely to have an impact on prices for the rest of our development going forward.
Trish, you're up next.
Yeah, I disagree.
And Tom?
I disagree also.
Okay.
Number 4, is that number 4
No,
we
no,
just
we're doing
did?
number 5.
Number 5, I'm sorry. Literal enforcement of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship. Unnecessary hardship means the applicant must establish that the property is burdened by the zoning restriction in a manner that is distinct from other similarly situated property. Because of special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, there is no fair and substantial relationship between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. The applicant must establish that because of conditions of the property, the restriction as applied to the property does not serve that purpose in a fair and substantial way. The proposed use is a reasonable one. Explanation: the applicant must establish that the special conditions of the property cause the proposed use to be reasonable. Alternatively, the use must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Alternatively, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict performance with the ordinance. As an alternative to A and B above, the applicant can satisfy the unnecessary hardship requirement by establishing that because of the special conditions of the property, there is no reasonable use that can be made of the property that would be permitted under the ordinance. If there is a reasonable use, including an existing use, that is permitted under the ordinance, this alternative is not available. The applicant's response is due to the property being zoned as light industrial/commercial and has been developed as such, along with the fact that the surrounding area contains the largest light industrial/commercial zoning in the town of Newton. The ordinance does not accurately reflect the character of the neighborhood. The regulation directly interferes with the owner's right to use the property as he or she sees fit. Furthermore, this variance does not injure any public or private rights of others.
Mike?
Decline. No
Alan?
comment at this time.
I'm sorry, Mike, what was that?
I said I disagree. No comment at this time.
Okay. Jack, disagree also. I'd just like to make a comment about this particular lot, 27-3. You know, we're looking at a proposed possibility of, I can't remember, 32 lots or whatever. And when we did the walkthrough, we couldn't tell lot 1 from lot 3. At least I couldn't. I would kid with Alan to pick out 2 or 3 lots as we walked Coleman's property. So I say that, so that what we've been asked to do tonight is to again on 27-3 is a one big yes on all these developments, which I think has been very difficult for us as members to even get a hold of. And these the way these are worded and so forth in their answers, nobody really knows for sure. We can only guesstimate what will happen in the future, the diminish of property values and so forth, because nobody really knows exactly what. So I again vote no on this, and I disagree because the hardships that are being created and so forth, I think are something to do with the developer, and definitely will affect property values. Thank you. Tom and Trish. I'm sorry, Trish, you're next. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I disagree, but my comment is I still see this as a potential value to our town if we had an alternative design on a smaller scale. I think all of this was done so massive, it would have been easier to look at. And again, years ago, Coleman, well, this isn't Coleman, years ago, we talked about this in the individual phases, but I think, like Jack just said, we're looking at a larger piece. If we looked at a smaller, not as massive design, maybe some of these answers would be different, but at this time I have to disagree.
Okay. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to deny variance A for lot number 1, phase 2 and 3, or 27-3 as it's known, for 120 Development Corp. of New Hampshire.
Seconded, Alan French.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye, Alan French.
Jack, aye.
Mike. Excuse me, Mike Conley, aye.
Tricia McCarthy, aye.
Tom McElroy, aye.
Yes, carries.
Okay, going on to the next variance request, B, under 27-3 lot. The variance required for this parcel is from the required 200-foot structural rear setback when abutting another zone. The parcel will have a 50-foot structural rear setback where a 200-foot setback is required. The setback is 50 feet, needing a variance of 150 feet for structural rear setback. Go through
Disagree.
Okay, we'll go through the 5 criteria.
Yeah.
Number 1, the variance is not contrary to the public interest such that it would alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The applicant's answer to that is the variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten public health, safety, or welfare. The variance will not change the use or the character of the neighborhood. All state, local, and federal permits will be submitted, protecting all health, safety, and welfare to the public.
Disagree, Mike Conley.
Disagree, Alan French.
Yeah, I think that the same thing stands out with the 120-foot variance. It's not contrary to public interest. Trish?
I also disagree, definitely contrary to what the residents have voted.
Tom?
I disagree.
Yeah.
Number 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. The proposed use must not conflict with the explicit or implicit purpose of the ordinance and must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, threaten public health, safety, or welfare, or otherwise injure public rights. The applicant's response to this criteria is the purpose of the ordinance is to make sure that there is an adequate and reasonable distance between zones. With the 50-foot side setback in place, there will be no alterations to the character of the neighborhood.
Mike?
Disagree.
Alan?
Disagree, Alan French.
Jack, again, I disagree, and the request for the 150-foot variance for the rear side backs is contrary to the public interest and not in spirit of the ordinance. I disagree. Trish?
I disagree. Again, residents have spoken.
Yeah. Tom?
I disagree also.
Okay.
Number 3, substantial justice is done. The benefit of the applicant should not be outweighed by the harm to the general public or other individuals. The response from the applicant, the benefit to the applicant is not outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. The value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this ordinance. The parcel will be set back with an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Mike?
Disagree.
Okay. Alan?
Disagree, Alan French.
Jack, Jack Kozak disagree, and again, I go back to the same remarks on the last 2 items on the first 2, that also the harm to the general public outweighs the benefit of the applicant if the variance is approved. Trish?
Again, I disagree. Same comment as I've had before. Residents have spoken.
Tom?
I disagree also.
Okay.
That was B we did, right? Just then.
That was B, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, C, the variance required for this parcel is from the...
No, Tom, we're doing,
We're doing...
we're doing number 4 on the criteria, substantial justice is done.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Okay. I feel like a secretary
Yeah.
now. Oh, baby.
Okay, number 5, sorry for that.
It's okay.
Literal enforcement of the ordinance result in unnecessary hardship.
No, number 3.
We're working on 3.
Yeah, sorry, Tom. No, I'm sorry. That was substantial justice is done. We're doing number 4. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Too much paperwork here.
The values of surrounding properties are not diminished. Expert testimony in this question is not conclusive. but cannot be ignored. The board may also consider other evidence of the effect on property values, including personal knowledge of the members themselves. The applicant response is the value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back with an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Mike?
Disagree?
Alan?
Disagree, Alan Frank.
And Jack, I disagree, yeah, and I think property values, and a comment was just made by a gentleman a few moments ago, I think those are the only references we have of property values dropping, and I still think that the effect would affect property values. Trish?
I disagree.
Okay. Tom?
Disagree.
Okay. Okay, number 5.
Number 5, little enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. Unnecessary hardship means the applicant must establish that the property is burdened by the zoning restriction in a manner that is distinct from other similarly situated property. Because of special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, there is no fair and substantial relationship between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. The applicant must establish that because of the conditions of the property, the restrictions as applied to the property does not serve that purpose in a fair and substantial way. The proposed use is a reasonable one. The applicant must establish that the special conditions of the property cause the proposed use to be reasonable. The use must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Alternatively, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance. As an alternative to A and B above, the applicant can satisfy the unnecessary hardship required by establishing that because of the special conditions of the property, there is no reasonable use that can be made with that property that would be permitted under the ordinance. If there is a reasonable use, including an existing use that is permitted under the ordinance, this alternative is not available. Response from the applicant is due to the property being zoned as light industrial/commercial and has been developed as such, along with the fact that the surrounding area contains the largest light industrial/commercial zoning in the town of Newton. The ordinance does not accurately reflect the current character of the neighborhood. The regulation directly interferes with the owner's right to use the property as he or she sees fit. Furthermore, the variance does not injure public or private rights of others. Again, see attached. The court establishes new definition of variance hardship by Susan Slack, New Hampshire Municipal Association Legal Services Council.
Mike?
Disagree.
Alan?
Disagree, Alan Frank.
I disagree also, and I think that going back and looking at the layout that Coleman and his people showed us with the 28, 30 lots, it's inconceivable to me how they're, that the denial of the variances request that would prevent hardships if they just thought a little bit differently when they're planning. So I disagree. Trish?
Yes, I disagree.
Disagree.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we deny variance request B for 125 Development Corp. of New Hampshire, Lot 1, Phase 2 and 3, known as 27.3.
Seconded, Alan Frank.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye, Alan Frank.
Aye, Jack Kozak.
Aye, Mike Conley.
Aye, Tricia McCarthy.
Aye, Tom McElroy. Okay, moving on to C. The variance required for this parcel is from the required 75-foot building distance from the center line of the street and 50 feet from any lot line. The parcel will have buildings and pavement with a 50-foot distance from the center line of the street and 25 feet to abutting lots within the development. The distance from the building to the street is 50 feet, needing a variance of 25-foot distance from the building to the center line of the street. The distance from the building, the abutting lot line within the development is 25 feet, needing a 25-foot distance from the building. Needing a variance of 25 feet distance from the building to the abutting lot line within the development.
a road or a driveway? Otherwise, there's no use even voting on this.
Well, this is a proposal. There's no road there now, I don't believe.
And how can we, have this? The applicant is, saying we don't know what we're talking about. Is it a road or is it a driveway?
Well, it would be a street or a road. It would have to be, this would also have to be approved by the planning board.
Yeah.
Okay, the criteria, again, this is for C.
Right, this is the C, that's correct.
Number one, the variance is not contrary to the public interest such that it would alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The applicant's comment to this is the variance would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The variance will not change the use of or the character of the neighborhood. All local, state, and federal permits will be submitted protecting all health, safety, and welfare to the public.
I would like
Mike?
to jump in here before you guys say what you got to say. Can you just clarify, particularly whoever had spoken and asked a question about a roadway or a driveway? What were you asking, if that was a roadway or a driveway?
Correct.
So what's your name?
Alan French.
Okay, so you are telling me that you do not know, based on everything that we've submitted, if that is a road or a driveway? Is that correct?
Doesn't say whether it's a roadway or a driveway.
I'm asking you the question. Do you not know if that's a roadway or a driveway? Do you not know?
So was your variance requesting?
I'm just asking a question. Could you please answer it? Do you not know? Yes or no?
I don't know what it is there.
Okay, thank you.
Doesn't say. Yeah. We don't know how that thing's located. Okay, we're gonna, did we go through A? Okay, and,
We're discussing C. We did
number one.
number one.
Okay, Mike, you vote on number one? On the variance not contrary to public interest?
Deny.
Okay. Alan?
Deny, Alan French.
And Jack, again, denial, again, that the variances are all contrary to public interest in the spirit of the ordinances. Trish?
I deny. I think it alters the character of the neighborhood, and it is not in the spirit of the ordinance.
Okay. Tom?
I deny also.
Okay.
Number two, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. The proposed use must not conflict with the explicit or implicit purpose of the ordinance and must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, threaten public health, safety, or welfare, or otherwise injure public rights. The applicant's comment to this is the purpose of the ordinance is to make sure there is an adequate and reasonable distance between zones with the 50-foot side setback in place. There will be no alterations to the character of the neighborhood.
Mike?
I disagree.
Alan?
Yeah, I disagree, Alan French.
I disagree. I go back to the ordinance. It's not in the spirit. Trish?
Again, I disagree. Not in the spirit.
Yeah. Tom?
I disagree also. Okay. Number three, substantial justice is done. The benefit to the applicant should not be outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. The applicant says the benefit to the applicant is not outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. The value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back within an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Mike?
Disagree.
And Alan?
Disagree, Alan French.
Jack? Disagree. Again, the harm to the general public outweighs the benefit to the applicant if the variance was approved. Trish?
Disagree.
Tom?
Also disagree. Number four, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished. Expert testimony on this question is not conclusive but cannot be ignored. The board may also consider other evidence of the effect on property values, including personal knowledge of the members themselves. The response to that by the applicant is the value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back with an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Mike,
Disagree.
Alan?
Disagree, Alan French.
Again, Jack Kozak disagree, and I said before that there's no proof one way or the other if there isn't a diminishing property values. I think there probably would be. Trish?
I disagree.
Tom?
Disagree.
Okay.
Number 5, little enforcement of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship. Unnecessary hardship means the applicant must establish that the property is burdened by the zoning restriction in a manner that is distinct from other similarly situated property because of special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. A, there is no fair and substantial relationship between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. The applicant must establish that because of the conditions of the property, the restriction as applied to the property does not serve that purpose in a fair, substantial way. And B, the proposed use is a reasonable one. The applicant must establish that the special conditions of the property cause the proposed use to be reasonable. The use must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Alternatively, the unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguishes it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict performance with the ordinance. As an alternative to A or B above, the applicant can satisfy the unnecessary hardship requirement by establishing that because of the special conditions of the property, there is no reasonable use that can be made of the property that would be permitted under the ordinance. If there is a reasonable use, including an existing one, that is permitted under the ordinance, this alternative is not available. The response from the applicant is due to the property being zoned as light industrial / commercial, and has been developed as such along with the fact that the surrounding area contain the largest light industrial / commercial zoning in the town of Newton. The ordinance does not accurately reflect the current character of the neighborhood. The regulation directly interferes with the owner's right to use the property as he or she sees fit. Furthermore, the variance does not injure the public or private rights of others.
Alan?
Disagree, Alan French.
Mike, I'm sorry. Mike?
Yep, disagree.
Okay. Jack Kozak, I disagree. You know, it's when you're reading this over for these people that are not aware of it, that 27-3 in phase 1 and 2 and 3 is, I think it's 32 lots. So we've got a catch-all situation that covers all 32 here, which make it very difficult. And so by denying these variances, I think we're right on the right page. Thank you. Okay, so that takes care of C. I'd like to make a motion to deny variance request C for 125 Development Corporation of New Hampshire, known to as Lot 1, Phase 2 and 3, known as 27-3.
Seconded, Alan French.
Any further discussion? Did we get both Trish and myself on that last, on number 5? Did you?
I think
Good catch.
Trish, yeah, we did, yeah.
Okay, just questioning that, okay. There is a motion on the floor and seconded. All those in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Jack Kozak, aye.
Alan French, aye.
Mike Conley, aye.
Tricia McCarthy, aye.
Tom McElroy, aye. Letter D. The variance required for this parcel is 50-foot building activity distance from any poorly or very poorly drained soil, except as provided in subsection of section 27 wetland zoning ordinance. The parcel will have a 20-foot building activity for pavement and recharge basin, needing a variance of 30 foot for the building activity distance from any poorly or very poorly drained soil, except as provided in subsection C of section 27 wetland zoning ordinance. Okay, we'll go through the 5 criteria.
Yeah.
Number 1, the variance is not contrary to the public interest, such that it would alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The response from the applicant is the variance would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten public health, safety, or welfare. The variance will not change the use or character of the neighborhood All state and federal permits will be submitted protecting all health, safety, and welfare of the public.
Mike?
Disagree.
Alan?
Disagree, Alan.
Jack Kozak, disagree. Request for a 30-foot variance for building activity from poorly or very poorly drained soil is contrary to the public interest and not in spirit of the ordinance. Trish?
I disagree.
Tom?
Disagree.
Okay.
Number 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. The proposed use must not conflict with the explicit or implicit purpose of the ordinance and must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, threaten public health, safety, or welfare, or otherwise injure public rights. Response from the applicant is the purpose of the ordinance is to make sure there is an adequate and reasonable distance between zones with a 50-foot setback in place. There will be no alterations to the character of the neighborhood.
Mike?
Disagree.
Okay. Alan?
Disagree, Alan French.
Jack, disagree. And again, I think it's contrary to the public interest and not in the spirit of the ordinance. Trish?
Disagree. You know, again, the public has spoken and it's wetlands. It's important to know about our soil and drainage and our natural resources. So I disagree.
Thank you. Tom?
Also disagree for the same reason.
Okay.
Number 3, substantial justice is done. The benefit to the applicant should not be outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. Response from the applicant is the benefit to the applicant is not outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. The value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back within an adequate and reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Mike?
Disagree.
Alan?
Disagree, Alan
Okay.
French.
Jack? Disagree. And denying this variance protects the aquifer. Trish?
Disagree.
Tom?
Disagree.
Okay.
Number 4, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished. Expert testimony on this question is not conclusive but cannot be ignored. The board may also consider other evidence of the effect of the property values, including personal knowledge of the members themselves. The answer from the applicant is the value of the surrounding properties will not diminish as the using will not change due to the approval of this variance. The parcel will be set back with an adequate, reasonable distance from abutting zones.
Mike?
Disagree.
Alan?
Disagree.
Okay. Jack? Disagree. Again, property values, I still feel, and as the gentleman said a few minutes earlier, they would be reduced. Trish?
Disagree.
Tom?
Disagree.
Okay.
Number 5, little enforcement of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship. Unnecessary hardship means the applicant must establish that the property is burdened by the zoning restriction in a manner that is distinct from other similarly situated property. Because of special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, A, there is no fair and substantial relationship between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. The applicant must establish that because of the conditions of the property, the restriction as applied to the property does not serve that purpose in a fair, substantial way. And B, the proposed use is a reasonable one. The applicant must establish that the special conditions of the property cause the proposed use to be reasonable. The use must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Alternatively, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguishes it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict performance with the ordinance. As an alternative to A and B above, the applicant can satisfy the unnecessary hardship requirement by establishing that because of the special conditions of the property, there is no reasonable use that can be made of the property that would be permitted under the ordinance. If there is a reasonable use, including an existing one that is permitted under the ordinance, the alternative is not available. Response from the applicant is, due to the property being zoned as light industrial/commercial and has been developed by such, along with the fact that surrounding area contains the largest light industrial /commercial zoning in the town of Newton. The ordinance does not accurately reflect the current character of the neighborhood. The regulation directly interferes with the owner's right to use the property as he or she sees fit. Furthermore, the variance does not injure the public or private rights of others.
Mike?
Disagree.
Alan?
Disagree, Alan Frank.
And I disagree. The applicant to me is not shown as a hardship if this variance is denied for those 32 pieces of property. Trish?
I disagree, and my comment is, I actually believe reasonable use could be done on a smaller scale and still be able to stay within the setbacks. And the owner could do what he wanted to do, but again, a smaller scale, and I believe it could be of value to him and the town. But I disagree as it currently stands.
Tom?
I disagree also for the same reasons.
Yeah, this is Jack Kozak. I'd like to make a motion to deny variance request D for 125 Development Corp. of New Hampshire, Lot 1, Phase 2 and 3, known as Lot 27.3.
Seconded, Alan Frank.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Jack Kozak, aye.
Alan Frank, aye.
Mike Conley, aye.
Tricia McCarthy, aye.
Tom McElroy, aye.
This ends the hearing for 125 Corp. of New Hampshire.
That being the case, unfortunately, we do not have time to consider the other hearing.
How long do we have?
Well, we're out of time.
We're out of time now.
Yeah. Is that right, Laura? I think we-
Hi, I extended it for about 3 hours. It's approved it so far, so I guess we can keep going.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good.
All right. That's fine.
I have the paperwork there. What do I do with it over here? Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Bork, are you there?
Uh-oh.
No?
His engineer is Vernon Dingman.
Are you representing Mr. Bork?
Yes.
Okay. What he's looking for, the applicant's looking for, is a special exception requested to the Board of Adjustment, not the Board of Appeals. And I believe it's an administrative appeal for a special exception for the from the code enforcement officer. And we have all the paperwork, and we have everything showing the design and everything of all the approvals that were necessary. What we don't have is where this house is going to be located on the property, but is that something that's going to happen at a later date?
What do you mean at a later date?
Well, I mean, we have no information that says that they're requesting variances as far as to the center line of the road or to the lot lines.
Oh, well, based on the special, I mean, I can provide that data this evening. I mean, I have up on plan before me, side setbacks, setback to the street, setback to the water, so forth.
This is Jack Kozak, one of the members. You know what, I have a question on it, because I've never seen one of these before, this kind of request. It's a special exception shall be granted to permit the erection of a structure with the shoreline protection district, provided that all the following conditions are found to exist. And we just talked a couple of minutes before the meeting started. I said to Tom, who enforces these? Is it the building inspector going to be over your neck? Looking at our zoning laws and so forth, there's a whole list of things that have to be monitored.
To my knowledge, it is the building inspector, as he was the one that cited the particular items and so forth. Basically, yeah. This is a lot that had a previous 6-bedroom monster house on it that was condemned some time ago and taken down. And the previous owners that were in the middle of that particular type project had contracted me, and I'd gotten approvals quite some time ago for shoreland and septic and all the things that I've done for Mr. and Mrs. Bork. And what happened was the previous owners got into kind of contested divorce and ended up selling the property about half, or the divorce caused the project not to be brought to fruition by the Aboyles, on the previous owners. And So what we're proposing here is 2 bedrooms instead of 6 bedrooms that was previously existing, a house that's almost 50%, it's just over 40% smaller than the previously existing home, and you know, basically just trying to present a reasonable application to the property as what was pre-existing. And this is a pre-existing non-conforming lot in the way that it was established by a 1929 subdivision. Basically, all of Wilders Grove Road in this zone was per the 1929 subdivision of, per the deed here, DG Fox Estates.
So us approving this, if we decide to approve it, I'm not sure if the other board members have a question, but that was my major concern. Who enforces all these things? And I'm assuming you work with the building inspector, because all the paperwork, at least that I looked at, and I think most of us did, was all in order. All the shoreline protection, everything was okay. Just a matter of getting this out of the way so you can go to step 2, which I'm sure is the design, laying out the property. And I'm sure at some time you'll probably come in front of us again to look for variances, whether they're lot line, or center of the road, or to the abutters to your right and left.
Per what I've seen from the building inspector, based on the various notes that he made to everyone, to Mr. Bork, but in particular, I'm quite sure that you have his 4-page letter. Essentially, where this is the town, in their wisdom, has provided some exceptions for him to deal with in the way that via the special exception based on being lots of record. I mean, obviously, this lot doesn't have 60,000 square feet, can't meet the wetlands setbacks from Country Pond. I mean, all these things were never even thought of back in 1929. And, you know, where these lots were developed and so forth, basically, you know, whether it was the town attorney or however your ordinances were generated, there was some very good common sense applied to address these substandard lots, basically. You know?
That's what that means, that special exemption for lots of record is what you're telling us.
This is a lot of record, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Like
So
I said,
is this house going to sit on the same footprint that the other house was on, or even smaller footprint?
much smaller footprint, much
But it's
smaller
going to be in
footprint.
the same location, pretty much.
It's, yes, the footprint is, yeah, from street to off the street, and then from the lake and so forth. Actually, we've gained some distance to the lake because the width of the house is that much smaller.
Right.
The side setbacks, like on the right-hand side setback, the previous dwelling was only 9 feet. We now have over 16 to 16.9 front to back corners and so forth. On the left-hand side, we went from 20 feet to 28 feet. Maintain the same 30 feet off of the sidelines or the front property line, I should say, with the road side, and increased from about 50 feet to the water to 61 feet on the lake side. So we've really pared down the building size and so forth, and especially from a health standard, you know, going from a 6-bedroom loading to a 2-bedroom loading, we've removed 600 gallons per day loading off of this particular lot site. So, you know, this is a much more ecologically impacted design and application to the property than what was pre-existing for many years.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So I have a couple of questions and a comment. So if it's the lot that I remember, this was torn down maybe 14, 15 years ago. Also, Conservation received some information about this property. I think we discussed it on October 3rd 2019, where we got some information from DES, but we haven't had anything further. And conservation actually should be involved with this. I also, and again, we're not at town hall, so I can't grab all our paperwork, but I believe this, once the foundation is gone and it's not replaced within 5 years, if our ordinance is still the same, there's a whole new planning process. And my last question is, how is it that you are here? Have you been in front of the planning board? Did they give you a decision and that's how you ended up in front of ZBA?
No, the owner went to file for a building permit after he obtained all his state permits to build a replacement structure here. And we're before the board based on the denial from the building inspector.
Okay, and again, I'll defer to the chairman, but I believe we need a decision according to our ordinances. It has to come from planning board, but also conservation should be very heavily involved in this, I think, before any action is taken tonight.
There's nothing to actually be filed before the planning board. In almost every town that I deal in the state of New Hampshire, most of my particular appearances before Board of Appeals are based on denials from building inspectors usually.
I understand that, but I believe our ordinances, and maybe Barbara can comment, I see her.
Yes.
I believe that it has to come, in this town, our ordinance says coming from the planning board. Again, I can be corrected, certainly. Feel free, Barbara.
Mr. Chairman, this is Barbara. May I speak?
Go right ahead.
Yes, okay. They only need a denial, and it can be either from the planning board or from the building inspector, from the building
Okay.
department.
Okay, thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Trish, all this paperwork looks, you probably didn't get it because you're a new member.
Exactly.
Our package that we received, the sewage disposal, the Department of Environmental Service, everything looks in order.
Okay, I don't have that, so I apologize, Vern.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah. So that's why when the little research that I did today is to find out what that really meant, that special exemption, and that was the only question I had. Who enforces all these particular, conditions? And the gentleman answered me that he'll be working with the building inspector. And from what he just said, and Tom and I are listening to him, he probably won't have to come back in front of us for any variances, because it seems like he's got more than enough room to the right and to the left of the building. Yeah.
So would the variance coming before the zoning board, because it's beyond the
I
two?
look as an administrative decision, because it says here, let me read this to you.
All right.
A special exception for lots of record upon application of the Board of Adjustments, a special exemption shall be granted to permit the erection of a structure within the shoreline protection district, provided that all the following conditions are found to exist. And if you look at our zoning bylaws, there's a whole list of criteria.
Okay.
So I guess this is the way that the building inspector is going to monitor the project. Sir, is that how you understand it?
Yes. That's
Yeah, from reading it today.
Per your building inspector's very detailed letter, yes, he's basically thrown us to you to grant a special exception, and then he will be making sure that the plans as approved by DES, both septic and shoreline, are going to be complied, and also structurally the new building will meet all your local codes and everything else adopted by the building inspector and so forth.
Are there any abutters present?
Probably not. Trish, do you think this is still a concern for conservation?
Well, again, I haven't seen what our building inspector has sent. Clearly, conservation is going to be involved in this because we typically monitor what's going on the shoreline. I'm concerned that, or not concerned, I guess I have a question. In the paperwork that you have,
Yeah.
Is there a state permit to rebuild? Because again, I thought it was 5 years, but I think it's 2 years after a house is torn down, including the foundation. There's a limit before it can be rebuilt. So is that permit there from the state?
I don't,
Yes, there is a
It is?
shoreland permit granted January 17th, 2020, with an expiration date of January 17th, 2025.
Okay.
Permit number 2019-03075 from the New Hampshire DES Shoreland Impact Group.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, well, I imagine, the only thing I can say, Vern, is have your client reach out to conservation, which I am on
Yep.
conservation,
Sure.
so that we can keep tabs on what's going on.
Yeah, if I can get your email, I can forward all of the documentation from the state and so forth to you.
Sure.
This is Jim Burke. I'm
PDF.
still here too.
Okay, sure, Jim.
Okay.
So it's conservation@newtonnh.net.
Conservation at Newton.
newtonnh.net. Thanks, Vern. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
No problem.
Are you happy with that, Tricia? Because we'd like to move forward on this tonight.
I think, you can move forward. I haven't seen anything, so I probably won't vote, but, you still have a quorum even if I don't vote.
Yep, because everything, again, I reviewed it today, Trish, at home, and that was the only question I had. Who follows up on this, that the conditions are found? And if it's the building inspector, I'm sure he'll do a good job. And if the
Right.
conservation committee wants to get involved with it, I'm sure there's no issue there either. And that
Okay.
gentleman's gonna send you all the documents that we have. Yeah.
Okay.
Does anybody else on the board have any questions for this gentleman?
Though I'm not voting tonight, I do have a question. This
Okay.
is Roger Hamill. If you grant the special exception, doesn't he still need to get variances, even though the building is smaller than the other one and it's a good thing to do? Because I only got the first 2 pages of the building inspector's letter. I didn't get if it was a 4-page letter, I'm missing 2 pages. So I don't know, if he addressed.
I only received 3 pages, so I'm not sure. And there was a lot of attachment, but what I did is I went into the zoning bylaws this morning and just read the following on the conditions. But just listening to the gentleman speak a few moments ago, Roger, if the buildings are, I went up and looked at the lot, okay? I took a ride over to just look at it. And that's the first thing I said to myself, well, he's probably gonna need a lot, an adjustment to the right and the left of the building, depending where it is, or maybe one, and maybe 65 feet from the road, from the center of the road. But according to what he said just a few moments ago, he's all set. But I'm sure if he needs other variances, the building inspector is gonna send them to us.
And this evening, we're acting as the Board of Adjustment, not the Board of Appeals.
Right.
For this particular situation.
Right, yep.
There are 5 abutters, and apparently none of them are present, so I don't
Yeah.
think there's any objection
Yeah.
from them.
Okay.
So why don't we go through the 5 criteria?
Do we have to go through the 5 criterias on this? He actually, that's right, he
Yeah,
submitted
you
them.
did, yes.
Okay, yep, okay. Yeah,
Okay, let's go through the 5 criteria.
okay, yeah.
Number 1, the variance is not contrary to the public interest, such that it would alter the essential character of the neighborhood or threaten the public health, safety, or welfare. The applicant's reply to this is the proposed 2-bedroom house is to replace the previous 6-bedroom house. The new house has all proper state approvals and improvements for the best health and safety for the area.
Anybody have, Mike? Mike, you still there?
I am. I agree.
Okay. Alan?
Alan French, yeah, I agree.
Jack Kozak, agree. Trish?
I'm just going to abstain because I don't have anything to look at.
Okay, no problem, no.
I agree, everything
Okay.
seems to be in order.
Yep.
Number 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. The proposed use must not conflict with the explicit or implicit purpose of the ordinance. It must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, threaten public health, safety, or welfare, or otherwise injure public rights. The applicant's response to that is the proposal has all required state approvals and will be upgrading the septic system and well and protect the lake and the abutting properties.
Mike,
I agree.
Alan,
Agree.
Jack, agree, and Tom, agree?
I agree.
Okay, yeah.
Number 3, substantial justice is done. The benefit to the applicant should not be outweighed by harm to the general public or other individuals. The response by the applicant is by allowing the new owner to make a much lower impact project than the previous use of the property.
Mike,
Agree.
yeah. Alan,
Agree.
agree. Jack, agree, and Tom?
Agree.
Okay, yeah.
Number 4, the value of surrounding properties are not diminished. Expert testimony in this question is not conclusive but cannot be ignored. The board may also consider other evidence of the effect on property values, including personal knowledge of the members themselves. The response from the applicant is all of the proposed improvements will increase abutting property values and improve the health and safety of the area.
Yep. Mike?
Agree.
Yeah. Alan?
Agree.
Jack, agree. Tom?
Agree.
Okay, yeah.
Number 5, little enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. Unnecessary hardship means the applicant must establish that the property is burdened by the zoning restriction in a manner that is distinct from other similarly situated property. Because of special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, there is no fair and substantial relationship between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and specific application of that provision to the property. The applicant must establish that because of conditions of the property, the restriction as applied to the property does not serve that purpose in a fair and substantial way. B, the proposed use is a reasonable one. The applicant must establish that the special conditions of the property cause the proposed use to be reasonable. The use must not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Alternatively, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict performance with the ordinance. As an alternative to A and B above, the applicant can satisfy the unnecessary hardship requirement by establishing that because of the special conditions of the property, there is no reasonable use that can be made of the property that would be permitted under the ordinance. If there is a reasonable use, including an existing one that is permitted under the ordinance, this alternative is not available. The applicant's answer to this criteria, the proposal allows the owner to use his lot in the proper loading and safety to neighborhoods and town.
Mike?
I agree.
Alan?
Agree.
Jack, agree, and Tom, agree?
Agree.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna attempt to make a motion here to,
Grant a
yeah,
special,
we're a Board of Adjustments tonight, pardon me?
you're gonna grant a special exception.
Right. We're gonna, the Board of Adjustments will grant a special exception for the lots of record. Okay. A special exception shall be granted to permit the erection of a structure within the shoreline protection district, provided that all the following conditions are found to exist. Now, according to what I'm getting out of our zoning bylaw, it's section, what's that, XXIX. Section PIONX.
29?
Yep.
IX. Yeah, I think that covers everything that has to be followed. Yeah, yeah. So I'd like to add that to the end of the granting of the variance, or granting of the special exception. Alan, you're gonna special, okay? All thumbs tonight, Tom, excuse me. Alan seconded.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of said motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, Alan French.
Aye.
Mike Conley, aye.
Tricia abstain.
Right.
Okay. Beautiful.
Why couldn't they all be this easy?
Yes, I know. Well, that gentleman was very good too, that was representing Mr. Burke. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I looked that up and read that today, and there's like 2 pages of conditions.
Yep.
I'm sure some of them don't You know, are we all done, Laura? Oh, can we, make a motion that we adjourn.
Well, wait a minute, do we have any further old business at this time?
Yeah, let's go back to town hall. I hate this.
Has everybody gone? Oh, Tricia's still there. She's hanging in
I'm
there.
here.
There are 15 people on here.
Oh,
Still 15, whoa.
Ooh.
We're getting more.
Laura, stay on after we adjourn. I need to talk to you.
Sure.
Okay,
Oh,
also,
boy.
before we adjourn, Laura, we'll have to do a record of decision on both of these hearings that we had. And I don't know if you how to do that, but usually it's a page, could be a single page, but in the case of 125 development, I'm not so sure it'll be a single page, but it's a record of how the hearing went, how we voted.
Oh, the
and
notice of decision?
Notice of decision, that's what it is, right, not record of decision. Yes, notice of decision. Are you aware? Yeah, I guess you're aware of that. And it has to
Yes,
go to the
sure.
appropriate, it has to go to the building inspector, to the applicant. You have a list of who has to get that? You must, I would think.
I will speak to Jim Doggett about that.
Okay.
He's
So
on.
that has to be done fairly soon.
They only got 30 days.
Because technically, not talking about one-time development, but talking about this last hearing we just had. Technically, this gentleman, or the applicant, could go to the building inspector tomorrow and apply for a building permit, and based upon what decision was made this evening. But there is a 30-day period at which, if he was to start putting a shovel in the ground tomorrow or the next day, it would be at his own risk. So there's a 30-day period at which anybody who would like to thinks that we erred in our decision, that they could come forward and protest the decision. So
Is Thursday
I've
okay?
advised Mr. Bork to that effect, or previous to the meeting, that with any ZBA approval, that there's always a 30-day appeal by any member of the public, so.
sounds like you know more than we do. Fine, great.
He's never, this isn't his first ball game, I guess.
Good. Is
Tom,
there
I
any
can
other
have that
business?
out. I'm sorry, Tom, I can have that out by Thursday morning, if that's all right.
Yep, yeah, that's fine, okay. Any other business? If not, we can entertain a motion. to
Make a
adjourn.
motion that we adjourn.
Seconded, Alan French.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alan French.
Hi.
Bye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, members. Appreciate your help.
Thank you. Laura, if you get a chance, can you send me any documents that I should have received?
I would have to fax them, so I can do that for you as soon as tomorrow, because I'll have access to a fax.
Oh,
Not fax, I'm sorry,
Oh.
scan them so I can email it. My apologies.
okay, all right. And I think I've emailed you, so you've got my email.
Yes, I do.
All right, hon, thank you.
No problem.
Good job.
Thanks.
Laura,
Aye.
Laura, this is Roger. You've been
Hi, Roger.
You've been mailing my things to the wrong address.
Oh, that's the list that Pat gave me.
But my house number is 17, not 11.
Oh, well, you would give us that, because we were gonna go over there and protest.
Oh my goodness, my apologies. I did not know. I will correct that right away.
Yeah, okay. 'Cause, fortunately, the mailman has been putting it in my mailbox. I don't think I've missed anything, but it would be good if you fix that to make it 17.
Of course. What a man. What a guy.
Thank you very much.
All
No
right.
problem.
The mailman
Good night.
knows, the
Good night.
mailman knows the address of all the things.
Tom, I will be in touch tomorrow morning.
Okay, we'll
Okay.
talk to you then.
Good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Thank you.